Right now, the biggest companies in the world are all quietly doing the same thing. Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google, and it's not about AI chips anymore. It's all about power, the actual electricity to run all of it. Microsoft literally just paid to switch on a shutdown nuclear plant just to feed its AI. And Amazon is doing it too, Meta is doing, and so is Google. So honestly, when the biggest companies on the planet all start moving the same time, I start paying attention. Here's the thing though, the world in general is running out of power, and we just can't build it fast enough. The demand is so far ahead of the supply, and the gap just keeps getting bigger with each data center project. And nuclear is just the most exciting part of that story. As I mentioned, when you look at the fundamentals of the demand that AI, robotics, and all of the mega trends in the world are currently creating, the demand just alone from AI is projected to 4x over the course of the next 4 years. And that creates a lot of pressure on the infrastructure itself. So, what these companies are trying to do is essentially they are trying to invest in technologies, invest in the best technology possible for the long term to power all of their AI. And these companies are very smart because they look at it from an investor perspective. As an investor, what do you want? You want the highest return possible on your capital. And if you compare nuclear energy with other sources, for example, oil, hydro, solar energy, nuclear returns 75 units of energy for every one put in, the most of any source. So the energy return on investment idea is like pretty simple. For every unit of energy you spend building and running a power source, how many units do you get back in return? And nuclear gives you 75 back. Solar is great. I actually own some solar stocks as well. The difference between nuclear and solar is that solar is much easier to get started, much easier to set up. But then there's issues when there's no sun, you have no energy. So you cannot fully rely on something because AI needs power 24/7, and nuclear is the one clear source that delivers both the efficiency and that around the clock reliability as well. And when you look at demand for nuclear itself, it is also in massive demand. But what powers nuclear? What is nuclear itself in terms of materials? When we're talking about nuclear energy, they're essentially talking about uranium. And uranium is in a major deficit. For a long time, it's been declining, and the demand today is already bigger than how much we are able to produce every single year. But because the rapid rise of nuclear technology, the thing with nuclear is that a lot of people think, oh my God, it's this huge thing, it's going to explode, the whole city is gone. It's not like that anymore. Nuclear has been very well researched, has advanced a lot as a technology, and it's not as dangerous anymore as it used to be 30 years ago. But in terms of political and policy, that's where usually the lagging situation has happened, where a lot of politicians haven't really kept up to date with how advanced this technology has gone up until today. Because if you look at the US, for example, in the US itself, they're saying we are going into a nuclear renaissance even. So these are the fundamentals of nuclear and uranium. TLDR, there's massive demand. Now, as an investor, what are the different things that you can look at? First of all, I'm looking at investing into uranium itself, which is the raw commodity that every reactor on Earth needs. And this is already in a structural deficit. The other one is the fuel itself, which means that raw uranium must be enriched into a reactor fuel. And there's only one company in the Western world that can actually create this advanced fuel that the new reactors need. And I'm going to talk about this soon. And the third step is the actual power, which is the plants that turn the fuel into electricity. And when all three of these companies work combined together, that's when we get to step 4. That's when we get to the part where Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google, the demand paying for the entire chain. So the first one that I'm personally looking to invest in is URNM, which is a Sprott Uranium Miners ETF. what are you betting on if you invest into this? Essentially, it's a direct bet on the shortage of uranium itself. So this is fundamentals. The fundamentals are true. Now, this ETF itself is essentially one fund that owns the world's biggest uranium mining companies, plus a chunk of physical uranium supply itself. Now, you might be asking, why not just buy straight up uranium? Why would you look at the miners? The thing is that the miners just tend to trade in a premium when the narrative for nuclear runs hot. It just tends to outperform the overall market. That's why over the past decade, uranium went up about 160%, while the miners went up about 320%, which is, again, roughly double. The second one, and actually let's take a look at the technical analysis for URNM, because if you look at URN, this has been an ETF that is correcting, is down about 38% from its all-time highs. It's sitting around its 200 daily moving average. Again, I'm on the 3 days, so it's a 600-day moving average. So essentially, this ETF is sitting at the average price of where it has traded over the course of the last 600 days, which is, in general, a very good entry point into some of these investments for the long term. Again, I'm personally very bullish because of the fundamentals for this segment. In terms of price targets, what I'm looking at, I am looking at somewhere around the $100 mark at least. So that's about 100% upside on this ETF. And again, I'm a long-term investor. I'm very patient. I know the fundamentals, and I understand that this might take time, but this is a very exciting opportunity. The other one is LEU. As I mentioned, this is the only company in the Western world who is making advanced fuel for the next generation of reactors. And the reason I like this company is because, first of all, it's already profitable. Second of all, it has so much demand that it has a backlog of over $2 billion. And thirdly, it just gets paid no matter which reactor wins. And raw uranium cannot power anything until it is enriched into fuel. And for the new advanced fuel technology, this is the only Western company that does it. They used to do it in Russia, but it has been banned. Why? Because the US wants to bring all of this production back to their own country. So essentially, any nuclear reactor project or company that you will see hyped up will end up making contracts and working with Centrus Energy, making it kind of a core part of this overall nuclear renaissance in the United States and the overall build out. Now, if you look at LEU itself, this is also a stock that has been pretty beaten down. A lot of these nuclear stocks have gone up massively in 2025. Like this stock had gone up 800% in a span of 6 months. And then what happened is that the stocks dropped off about 70%. And if you look at, again, average day of the last 600 days, this stock doesn't tend to spend too much time in this range. Maybe a couple of months before the next 150% run, before the next 80% run, before the next 250% run. So again, I'm not expecting this to go up immediately as of like next week or next month. I'm thinking about all of these over a time frame of at least 12 months as an investment. And to me, LEU, considering this is currently a $3 billion company and it used to be a $9 billion company, the only thing that has happened is that this company just made way more money in the meantime. Sounds interesting to me. So that's about LEU. One more thing that you will see is that this is a company that makes a lot of partnership with the nuclear reactors themselves. So you might see companies like Oklo, you might see companies like I think NMR or SMR is the other one that is quite popular. The thing with these stocks is that these are more narrative driven and much less fundamentals driven. These companies have enormous debt. They're not going to make any money for many, many years to come. And because of that, these stocks are so much more speculative than just buying LEU or uranium itself. In terms of the downside risk, in terms of the execution risk, these are much more likely to fail, whereas LEU is already a money-making business in a very solid position. So that is a difference between, you can invest into nuclear in so many ways, but again, based on the fundamentals and what matters, LEU, kind of like a bottleneck company that I'm really keen on buying more shares of. And the other one is VST, Vistra. It's probably like the biggest one. If you look at Nancy Pelosi, some of the biggest politicians around the world, you will find it in their investment portfolios. Why? Because it's America's largest power producer, or one of the largest. And this is also a company that does a lot of different energy. They do nuclear plants, they do gas, they do solar, they do storage, and it's a very robust business overall. If you look at BST, it has also been going through a overall correction of about 30% from its all-time highs, 35% even, and it's currently sitting exactly at that level of the 200 moving average on the 3-day chart, so it's average price of the last 600 days. And I just think that these are the companies that are going to grow and build so much, essentially no matter what happens in the world, making me extremely bullish on all of these stocks. And I'm targeting about $270 for PST. Now, this is a trend that has three ways to invest in it. Again, to sum it up, you can approach it from the perspective of I want to invest into the actual asset and the mining companies, which is URNM. There's the way to invest into a bottleneck company, which is refining the actual material, which is LEU. And you have the more low risk, lower reward way is to invest into one of the biggest energy producers in the United States, which is BST. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about these. I'm personally invested in every single one of them. And if you want to get access to real-time information about my portfolio and what I'm doing, then make sure you click on the link in the description so that you can subscribe to get access to all of those completely for free. Now, this was not financial advice, educational content only. Have a blessed weekend.